In this lab, we'll show how to determine the three-dimensional structure of a molecule based on a two-dimensional Lewis structure. Let's start with methane, or CH4. Hydrogens are always found around the outside of a molecule, but generally we also put the least electronegative atom in the center. So this is our two-dimensional Lewis structure for methane. Each pair of electrons, or single bond, is represented by one balloon. You can see the balloons organize themselves to get as far away from the other balloons as possible. Electron pairs do the same because they repel each other. So these balloons represent the 4 hydrogen atoms, with the central carbon atom being the rubber band or string that ties them together. It doesn't have a balloon to represent it. These 4 hydrogen atoms are equally spaced around the central atom. Make a sketch of this structure and then use the simulation provided to determine the name of this molecular shape. Next is ammonia, or NH3. The hydrogen atoms are attached with single bonds to the central nitrogen atom, taking up 6 electrons. The other 2 electrons form a lone pair at the top of the nitrogen atom. The 3 hydrogens are represented with green balloons, and the lone pair of electrons is represented by a clear balloon. Because the lone pair of electrons is strongly attracted to the central nitrogen atom, it pushes the hydrogen atoms away. This structure is similar to the methane structure, but the lone electrons change it slightly. Sketch the structure and then use the simulation to identify the shape. Next is water, which has an oxygen atom surrounded by 2 hydrogen atoms and 2 lone pairs of electrons. The hydrogen atoms here are represented by 2 yellow balloons, and the lone pairs of electrons are represented by the clear balloons. Notice the lone pairs cause the hydrogen atoms to angle downwards. Sketch this structure and then use the simulation to identify the shape. Boron trihydride, or BH3, is an unusual molecule because boron doesn't follow the octet rule. It only forms 3 single bonds using 6 electrons. This causes the 3 hydrogens to separate, essentially forming a triangle on one plane. Sketch this structure and then use the simulation to identify the shape. Carbon dioxide has 2 oxygen atoms that are connected to a central carbon atom with double bonds. Although the oxygen atoms have lone pairs of electrons, we're only concerned with the electrons around the central atom for our molecular geometry. Because there are double bonds on both sides of the carbon and the carbon doesn't have any lone pairs of electrons, the molecule has a balanced structure. Sketch this structure and then use the simulation to identify the shape. Our trickiest 2D structure for this lab is sulfur trioxide. Like boron, sulfur can break the octet rule. In this structure, sulfur can hold 12 electrons, so our Lewis diagram has double bonds connecting each of the oxygens. Again, we're unconcerned with the lone pairs of electrons around the oxygen atoms because we're only focusing on the central atom right now. Since each oxygen atom has a double bond, the molecule creates a balanced triangle structure on one plane, like our boron trihydride did. Sketch this final structure and then use the simulation to identify the shape.